Well, I gotta say, I'm pretty well pumped up for this one. This has quickly won me over, and right off the bat has become my favorite fragrance release of the year. We're only 3 months in. I understand that. It's not super far yet. But, man, I mean, this was so well done. You go take a look at my first impressions, and you can be the judge of my reaction there. It takes a lot for me these days to really have an over-the-top, blown-away reaction. You know, we're covering designers here mainly, and very rarely will I come across a designer that smells horrendous or bad. It has happened before, and I've covered those, but, you know, a lot of times it's going to be decent or pleasant at the bare minimum, and I try not to tarnish fragrances that are generic and just pleasant. You know, I have before. I'm trying to improve and not let my I don't know, ego to some extent get in the way of that. I try to be as honest and forthcoming as I can with these first impressions and reviews. So a lot of things just smell okay. That's just how it is these days. But this here smells miles better than okay, and we're going to talk about it. It's Gentleman Eau de Parfum Reserve Privee. And yes, this little pathetic 50 ml bottle is not going to do it. I'm going to be getting a 100 ml here soon. Not that I really need it, because 50 milliliters with my collection will last me a good while here, but I want it. So we're going to review this one today. Going to tell you how it smells, how it performs, when you can wear it, and ultimately if I think it's going to be worth picking up, which you pretty much already know what I think. So when you first spray this one on, you immediately can tell that it smells quite similar to Gentleman Eau de Parfum. So one thing that I've prided the line of Gentleman on, the Gentleman line, is that there's really no redundancy within it. And so I don't want you to act too quickly on this one and think, oh, this is redundant now, or listen to what I'm saying right off the bat and say, oh, it's redundant, I don't need it. Because yes, it does have a similarity to Gentleman EDP. Out of the entire lineup, it would be the closest to that one. But you'll find really quickly, even just after 10 or 15 seconds as it starts to settle and develop, and even longer, that it immediately turns down a different path. We're getting so much more of a chocolatey, heavy, thick creaminess out of this one that is not nearly as present in Gentleman EDP. You know, this one almost goes down the road of like a Dior Homme Intense in terms of its chocolatey cacao smell, but still different than Dior Homme Intense as well, more mass-pleasing anyway. It goes in a different direction. One of the other things that you'll pick up on relatively quickly is the chestnut note. And now that's a note that I've been a big fan of for a while. It was introduced to me in Replica by the Fireplace. That's a fantastic fragrance that does really smell like you're sitting by a fireplace in the wintertime, roasting marshmallows, whatever, or even, you know, sitting outside in fall, roasting marshmallows over an open bonfire, that sort of thing, right? It has that vibe going on, that smokiness, that chestnut kind of sweetness and nuttiness. And so you pick up on that accord here as well. That note is also used strongly in Stronger With You. That was a good segue. The original and Absolutely. It was used in those two relatively heavily. And also it's back in the new Stronger With You Only, which is great stuff as well. So I really like it because of that note as well. Now, one of the main things that pumped me up over Gentleman Reserve Privee is the whiskey note. And as soon as I saw this announced, I was sold. I'm like, oh, there's whiskey in it. There's a boozy accord. I'm in. Because I don't know if I've said this or not. I've probably thought about it, and I've thought about it with a lot of fragrances, to be fair. But I'm almost certain that I maybe said, you know what? In terms of a gentleman flanker, why not give us something with a bit of a boozy accord? Because they've given us Gentleman Eau de Parfum Boisé, which is really nice. It's almost a fresher, lighter take, very sandalwood heavy, very creamy in that sense, you know, sweet woodiness. We have Eau de Toilette Intense, which is fresh, modern woods. Give us something richer with a bit of booze. And whether I said that or not, whether I was even thinking that or not, or if I'm mixing it up with something else, they did it. And that's what I was so pumped up about. Now, you're not going to pick up on the whiskey right away. Normally, it's a top note, right? It's a fresher, you know, kind of a whiskey alcohol opening. That's not how it is here. And I described it this way in my first impressions, that it's almost more of like a rum. And I still kind of think that, you know, it's almost a sweeter, boozy note in here. You know, kind of like the boozy note that you would get in a Bentley for Mint Intense, for example. Not saying that this smells like that, but the type of boozy accord, That's kind of how it comes across. And you'll notice, looking at the note breakdown, they list the whiskey as a base note and not a top note. And speaking of the note breakdown, I'll run through it really quickly. Pretty simple. We have a 1, 2, 3 order. We have bergamot up top. We have iris and chestnut in the mid. We have whiskey, amber, and woody notes in the base. Pretty simplistic. So the iris, of course, is coming through strong. The chestnut, we already spoke about that. It's coming through. As it's sitting longer and longer on the skin, the whiskey note will start to come through. Again, more of like a spiced rum to me in a way. Just a sweeter, boozy note. And that really leaves us with the remaining notes. We have amber, which definitely comes through, kind of gives off a sticky sweetness. There's a good amount of woods, and the woods almost could be like an oak barrel smell. That could also kind of give off a booziness as well, but definitely woods. More so, it would be a sandalwood, not really a cedar wood to me. The cedar wood would give off, a bit more of a spiciness almost, and it's not that way. It's smooth all the way through, really not much of a spicy kick. So more of a creamy sandalwood in here. The only note that I really don't pick up on all that much is the bergamot right off the top. I just don't really get it. Maybe there's a little bit of a brightness, and that would be coming from the bergamot, but it's definitely not a main player. And you would expect it to be? I don't think so. So notes that are missing, I would say for sure like a cacao or just a straight up chocolate note if they wanted to throw that in. I feel like that's missing because I get a ton of that. To that extent, something along those lines. Again, and it's that same type of smell that's in a Dior Homme Intense. Now, again, I don't want to confuse you. This is still closer to Gentleman Eau de Parfum than Dior Homme Intense. I'm just talking about that one little aspect of Dior Homme Intense, that chocolatey cacao, smooth creaminess. It's like they pulled that out of DHI and shoved it in here and still trended this one in the more mass-pleasing direction of Gentleman Eau de Parfum. Because there's kind of an iris trifecta, you'll notice, okay? There's Dior Homme Intense, where it all started. There's Valentino Uomo Intense, and then there's Givenchy Gentleman EDP. And the mass appeal and, kind of easy to wear type of smell basically goes in that order, where Dior Homme Intense is going to be the hardest to pull off, Valentino Uomo Intense up next, and Gentleman EDP going to be the most mass-pleasing, the easiest to pull off, the most beginner-friendly. That's kind of how it goes, and it's a great trifecta. I strongly encourage you to own all of those fragrances if you like iris. So, this one still trends in that gentleman direction, but for me, this smells so nice. It's such a nice improvement. It's so much more refined and smooth and heavy and kind of sweet and almost resinous in a way with that booziness, that I may find myself reaching for this one much more than the EDP when it's cold outside. I've been wearing it a lot lately as it's been cold, obviously, to test it for this full review. But once we get through summer, which I'm not in a hurry to get through summer, so we'll think far ahead, and when summer's unfortunately over and we're getting into wintertime, this is going to be getting pulled out of the shelf first and sprayed on my skin because I love it. And you know what? I'll probably be wearing this one in summer evenings as well. Longevity on my skin has also been fantastic, which is a great redeeming factor for maybe some of you out there who are on the fence and you need the performance to win you over the edge. For me, smelling this, if this was a 3-hour fragrance, I would suck it up and say, F it, I don't care, I'm wearing it anyway. I'll put this little rinky-dink bottle in my back pocket because that's how much I like the smell. And I'm not that way often, I have a lot of fragrances, so many more out there that if performance isn't up to my standards, I may kind of lean towards something else. But in this instance, I would have let it slide. Longevity on my skin, it's been 9 hours or so on average, a bit more. By that point and beyond, it is a skin scent for sure. But leading up to that point, it's relatively soft still. Not a skin scent, but soft. But it does leave a nice trail. Remember, this is an EDP. And I just kind of answered that about the sillage or the projection. Softer projection here from this one. It's really date night appropriate. It's nothing that's going to have a lot of distance, that's going to assault the person you're with or the people that you're around. It more so excels in leaving a trail. You walk into a room, hang out for a minute, walk out. This scent is going to linger for a good while. So performance for me gets a check mark. I stand behind it. It's a good performer, everything that I look for. In terms of situations, it's going to be a great date night, evening out scent. It would be a great one to wear with a leather jacket, great one to wear just in general, casual, formal. I think it could do about anything. Date nights, formal situations, really about anything in the cooler weather, fall, winter, early spring, I would say as well. and maybe summer evenings. At least for me, it's going to be summer evenings. Some people would maybe not feel comfortable with that. For me, I'm going to get my fix of this one, and I'm going to do it. But that's kind of where it is. You know, it's very versatile, and I knew this was going to be at least good. I didn't think it was going to be this good, though. It's an absolute home run, stunning scent, and even though we're early on into the year, it wouldn't surprise me if this one ends up being, like, at least within my top 3 favorites of the entire year that's going to be released. We still have a long year ahead of us, a lot more to come, but it wouldn't surprise me. It's that good, and I do not say that often. That's going to do it for me. My thoughts on Gentleman Reserve Privee. I will link this one down below so you can buy it. Will be retail for the time being. Don't expect to see this one discounted at discounters until probably middle to end of the year. It's kind of how things are now. It might pop up here and there and still be relatively close to retail. But don't expect it to see it priced at, like, you know, Gentleman, EDP, and the original for a good while now. It's just been taking a long time for these things to hit. Let me know down below your thoughts on this one. That's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.